Tomorrow, voters will decide the balance of power in Congress with dozens of Senate seats and every seat of the House of Representatives up for grabs. I want to bring in Ryan Nobles, who covers Capitol Hill for us. He's going to break it down for us. Ryan, let's start in the Senate, right? And we've unassigned those big races in the Senate here. Republicans with 49, Democrats with 43. Let's talk about first the big race in West Virginia. What's happening there? And explain why this might be a layup for Republicans.
So the issue here is West Virginia is a very Republican state, right? Donald Trump could win here by 20 points. For a long time, they were represented in the Senate by Joe Manchin, who is a very independent senator. In fact, he's not even a Democrat anymore. He views himself as an independent. Manchin chose not to run for re-election. Jim Justice, who's the popular Republican governor there, specifically recruited by Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump to run. He's in the race. He should win this very easily, which gives them one of the two seats they need to take back control.
He also has a very popular dog, right?
That's right, baby dog.
Baby dog that people love.
He goes. Yep.
So we're going to put West Virginia in the column for Republicans here. They're now up to 50. Let's talk about what's happening in Montana here. The incumbent Jon Tester versus Tim Sheehy. What's happening here?
So this is another really red state. Donald Trump could win here anywhere between 15 to 20 points. We're also seeing that they're having a population boom in Montana, in many ways attributed to the really popular show Yellowstone. And many of the people that are moving to this state are actually Republicans. And Tim Sheehy is actually one of them. He is a rich businessman who moved to Montana about 15 years ago. He is a prize recruit by Republicans, a former Navy SEAL, run a very competitive race. And most polls show him ahead of Jon Tester, in some cases outside the margin of error.
And the spending in this race has been wild, right? Tell our viewers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars for a state that isn't that big of a media market. If you go to Montana, and I've been there twice now over the past year, you literally cannot turn on the television, look at your phone for even a few seconds without seeing an ad.
So we put Montana in the Republican columns. Walk me through the math here. I don't understand. Where do Democrats see they could get the majority in the Senate?
So this is why everyone is really bullish on the Republicans taking control of the Senate, just because of where the battlegrounds are here. And this really means at this stage of the game, if there's any way for Democrats to hold on to control of the Senate, they basically have to run the table in the blue wall. That means they've got to pick up Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, also Arizona and Nevada. Their only other hope under this scenario.
Let me give you all these states to see what happens. And again, these are competitive races, right, Ryan? These aren't layups.
They could lose any of these, right?
So we're still at 49-51. What's the other seat they see that they could pick off?
So we have to go to Texas to make that happen. And you notice that we've already started with Texas as kind of...
Yeah, we have to go down here.
We assume that was a state that Republicans would win. Yeah. But Colin Allred, who is the insurgent candidate there, Democratic congressman running against Ted Cruz there, has run a very competitive race. Many view that race within the margin of error right now. Talk about a race where hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent. Texas is one of them. So the scenario for Democrats would be they lose Montana and they lose West Virginia, but they pick up Texas and Kamala Harris wins. 50-50, they still control the Senate.
Okay, let's talk about the House races here and what's going on in the House. There are some competitive districts, right? We're talking about one in Virginia and one in New Mexico. We'll start in New Mexico. Talk to us about what's happening here with the race over here. I'm sorry, I was in Arizona, just over New Mexico, right down here in this district, District 2.
So the big thing about the House is that many of the most competitive races are not in the places that the presidential campaigns are competing. So each one of these candidates is running their own race. Gabe Vasquez is the incumbent here, but this is a district where President Biden won by a couple of points. Very competitive. Obviously, immigration is a huge issue that they're talking about in this particular district. Very different than a race that you also want to talk about, which is in Virginia, which talks about why the dynamics are so different in the House.
Yeah, and Trump actually went to New Mexico. People were wondering why. Right. In part, it was to campaign.
Right. Could
that
help
race
those
as well.
House
Let's go to Virginia, and it's Virginia 7. Look at that. Hit it right on the money, the bullseye.
Yeah, there you go.
Talk to me about what's happening here.
So this race is interesting because there was a very popular member of Congress, Abigail Spanberger, who represented the 7th District. She's now going to run for governor next year. Enter Eugene Vindman. Of course, his brother famously testified in the impeachment hearing of former President Trump, running against a veteran and Derek Anderson. They're both veterans, but this is another race. This is kind of the Washington, D.C. exurbs, not really the suburbs, a bit further south, closer to Richmond, where you have seen millions of dollars poured into this race. And this could be a bellwether. If we're watching the returns start to come in, this is probably a slight edge for Democrats. If Democrats are losing this seat, and it looks like Anderson's going to win easy, it could be a long night for Democrats.
Yeah, it's just under the northern suburbs there. We'll see how those votes are coming out. Ryan Nobles, we thank you for all that. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.